Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad.
Chad, don't do the noise. Don't do it.
How was your guys' this week?
I don't know.
Oh, God, you got to give me something, Chad.
I got nothing.
You're
I'm
still
just sitting here
recuperating?
laughing. Yeah.
Andy?
Fantastic.
Cool?
Yep.
Cool?
Running around, busy as ever, but just grateful.
Yeah. I live and love life. So I just got to say it now for all you haters out there that think that you're damaging my day today. I actually kind of get some enjoyment out of it. I mean, literally, like I live it. You know, I don't think that they realize that you really can't say anything to me or about me that's going to deviate me. I've had a harder life up to this point than I ever had before, and it just keeps getting better every day. So if you honestly think that you're going to say something about me that hasn't been said, I don't know, to me 20 years ago on a daily basis or whatever the case may be, if you know my life, you probably know me to be somebody that's not as weak as some might be. And I think a lot of that's projection. It's a lot of projection on their part. But anyway, Chad, you were at the roast of Rod, and
yes, I was.
You were one of the roasters, and I have to say I take my hat off to you. You did a phenomenal job, and I thought your take on it, even though you were the icebreaker, you were the first Rod roaster. Yeah. You did. It was fun. Well, it was fun.
I made a number of comments afterwards. I feel like I totally bombed it, but at the same time, here's a real opinion. At the same time, I was first. People had not been drinking enough, and and I hadn't drank enough at all. I had not done any drinking, so I was kind of set up to, whatever. And
you did good.
And you can say anything, and in that forum, right? You could say anything you wanted about Greg Hansen, and people would laugh their butts off. You could say anything you wanted about Andy Harder, and I did, and people would laugh. And most of the humor I employed, I would not employ on this program because we try and be a family show.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody really expected that out of me, because that's not what you get out of me in public settings. And going in, my wife read parts of the script, and she was like, "You really going to do this?" And I said, "Mary, you know me, this brain here, it's super twisted, but I have a filter on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and I make sure this stuff does not come out of me." So myself. I'm just gonna let it go. I'm just gonna let it go for one night, and
well, you did good.
So and people have a lot of respect for Rod, and that's great.
Yeah. Rod is what I noticed throughout that whole thing. Just looking at it subjectively, it seemed to be difficult for some people to a roast is kind of to gravitate towards low blows. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of that. I think for the most part, it kept pretty classy by a lot of the roasters. There were times when there was some real heartfelt, appreciative comments, almost like people felt bad about some of the stuff that they might be saying, even though it was a joke. So anyway, for anybody that would like to watch that I think we're going to go ahead. I was the one that produced that whole thing on video, and we did the best that we could with it, because it was only supposed to be an hour and a half, and it turned out to be 2 hours and 47 minutes. So anybody in the data world knows that's not the easiest thing. I've spent countless hours just trying to produce the best quality.
Files.
Yeah.
Have you sat down to edit it with Greg yet? Because he was supposed to have the final say.
No. There's
okay.
not. I mean, honestly, there can't be that. It's just that's not the way it works. I've spent, I don't know if I mentioned it, but 40, 50 hours already going through and taking. We had 3 cameras and audio and everything, and just trying to do a good quality production with the time that I have to do it, and we're pretty much done with the time I have to do it at this point. So yeah, it's it was good. It was quality. I think it served the purpose that it did. It was a benefit for some kids that are needing some assistance. I think what Rotary does is a great thing. I think there was a lot of people that volunteered to make that happen. I think Greg did a good job screenwriting that and coming up with the content and just really overall, it was a very good thing, and I think anybody that gets the opportunity to watch that, it'll be broke down into 3 different clips, 3 different basically hour-long segments, because once again the data is so big on that. But Andy, I mean, you said your week was good, but did anything stand out for you over the last week that you've been looking or reading about or anything?
So many things. I mean, the world is about to change pretty hard, and it's been needed for a while. I'm just optimistically excited about where things are going to go, but nervous because I know things are going to fall and spill when you're making big, huge changes, and I'm hoping that people handle things with care, because things need to change, but it needs to be done with tact. And so, I was looking over very frivolous conversations between some people who are looking at numbers right now. But the one thing that I'm really excited about, but makes me nervous, is some of the possible changes that are coming with our new administration when it comes to overspending. And, when you see the Pentagon was 870, I think it was $870-ish billion unaccounted for in their budget. There's could be a lot of layers there, but we as Americans should know that when you start hiding things like that, if that's what's happening, that's not good. Or if you're really missing that kind of money, that's not good, because that's $870 billion this last year, and that was the 7th year in a row that they have had numbers like that.
Well, in my opinion, you know what I think that is? The first thing that I read what you're talking about, and the first thing that came up to me is, man, there's that amount of money that they secretively spend on programs and things that are happening on a technological level, on a global level, that we are not privy to knowing about.
Right.
That's the government saying, we're going to take this money, whether it's going to be for, new technology when it comes to aerial things or weapons or whatever the case may be. And that's just not information that you or me or Chad or anybody is going to know. You got to have classified clearance for that one, Andy.
Well, shouldn't our representatives at least know, or somebody? I mean, I understand to a certain level. I do understand at a certain level, right? There's things even on a local level that you talk about in an executive session that you just don't want to cause problems out in the open, and you want to respect people's space and things like that, and names and little formalities. But there are things that you would say in an executive session that you don't talk about in public, because it's just not, it's going to rile up things, or it'll cause insecurities in places that don't really need to live there. So I have a little microscopic idea of what that could look like, but to the tune of that much money and resource that we give over as a community, as taxpayers, and everything we buy, from a Snickers bar to a vehicle to homes, right? Because we're in this country where property taxes is forever.
Everything's taxed.
So do you really own your home, right? We're in the system, and the system is getting bigger.
Yeah.
And we need to check it. And, things like the National Teachers Association and the amounts of billions that go to those types of groups, what would that do at a local level? Should we war game that? Maybe that would keep money from the federal level coming to our schools instead of another group. What does that look like? And a lot of people are, don't say that. You're actually supposed to be supporting it. I am supporting education. That's why I'm saying it out loud right now, is I think those things need to be looked at. And what good have they done? And where do those dues go to the 300 million teachers that are a part of that pay dues? What are they paying dues for 90% of your funds to be spent on political campaigns?
Well, it's the same thing with unions.
I mean, these are all trashy. And so I'm excited about unpacking these things and getting a download of what's really going on. So the big number was $2 trillion, and it's very frivolous. But our national debt's hovering at 3.5, and it's going up fast. Our debt payments as a country, our interest payments are more than the annual budget for our military. So if you think about cutting $2 trillion out, that's a lot of shifting. That's a lot of scariness, but it's also exciting all at the same time. And there will be drop footballs along the way in this exercise.
Well, I'd say this.
Dropped footballs and also unintended consequences.
100%.
Yeah, well, you know, what's going to happen
And that's
when you
the
don't,
part that scares me.
Yeah.
Is we, from top to bottom, we do not have a handle on unintended consequences. And very rarely do I see what unintended consequences could be considered before we make an action. And it just is very frustrating.
And at the speed of entrepreneur, because these guys don't understand some of these systems. They understand a little bit, but they're entrepreneurs and they're not made to sit and wait. They're ready, fire, aim kind of people. And so I know that nature because that's who I am. And so I realize that when you have those people in detailed positions, things can get a little wonky. It's not that they're all the way wrong, but they're not all the way right all the time either.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, to your
Government-
point, it's going to be, I'm worried about it. Not to the point of I'd rather it happen and let's deal with what we're going to deal with because there's going to be spillage.
Yeah. Well, government runs slowly. A lot of people think that all of a sudden, you know, when you're in the business world, in the private sector, you can make changes that you see the effect of right away. That's the way the private sector is designed. If you're a company that doesn't stay on top of the ball when it comes to where you're losing or hemorrhaging money,
You're gone.
then you're done. I mean, by the time you realize it, you're done. The government, on the other hand, can keep writing that check, can keep printing that money. And when you talk about the debt clog, it's unbelievable the amount, you know. And then speaking of all the money that the Pentagon wasted, I just had a thought, you know. I was actually considering where some of this money is going, and Andy's just gonna piss off the aliens right away. He just wants to pull the alien funding right away that we pay them to not get at us, right?
Well, I'm worried about. I'm worried
I
about
saw
the
it on a
local
blog
marketing
somewhere,
dollars
you
that
know?
go out of our pockets when we talk about aliens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need some of those funds to keep coming in. The interesting fact.
What kind of aliens are we talking about?
I
We're
don't know,
talking about
whichever one.
Martians?
We're talking about weirdos, bro.
Okay.
They're everywhere.
I mean, 'cause-
We're talking about those
aliens-
people that you're
when
not sure if they're
talking-
aliens or not.
Nah, well, I'm just saying,
Like, when
you
you
know,
think, where did they come
if
from,
If
you
we're
know?
talking about the Pentagon, we very well could be talking about little green Martians.
Hey, I read it on a blog, and all I know is if you read something on a blog, and I have my own biases, I'm there to confirm my own biases.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna,
'Cause
I mean, hey,
the UFOs we've recovered, they're down in Area 51. That's run by the Pentagon.
well, yeah. Yeah, you didn't know this? I see it all over the place. Maybe it's just
Didn't you watch
algorithms and
Independence
stuff.
Day?
I mean,
Come
come on.
on.
That was them telling us. That was actually Hollywood doing what
I'm in
they
a
do
mood, can you
best.
You just gotta stop them again.
They that's what Hollywood
Pentagon,
does.
aliens. I mean, we're all over the map.
Hollywood, it's all there. You know, didn't you know that we never landed on the moon, John? And that was a production
yeah.
from
Yeah.
Hollywood? I mean, how much money did they get for that? Do you think they just told the American people and the rest of the world about that? But I saw it on a blog. So if I saw it on a blog somewhere on the internet and I believe it to be true or I want it to be true, then that's what I use for my credible
you know,
statements.
they very it would be very easy to do the remake, right, of the moon landing because we've got full model down in Hutchinson. So you want to?
That's where it was shot.
Should we?
You didn't know
That's what I was
in the
told.
salt mines. Come on, Chad.
So-
I mean, come
what I
on.
heard.
No, it's not in the salt mines, man. It's in the Cosmosphere, which was built in the 80s. But anyway,
Oh boy, okay.
You know.
Okay. So coming down to some local stuff because I want to cover some local stuff here. For those that didn't know, the county commission recently approved moving ahead with construction to remodel the county-owned building at 215 South Pine Street, Newton. For those that are unaware of why they did that, it was because of the need for us to expand our court portion of the courthouse.
District court,
right?
yes.
So the district court needs to grow based on state legislated requirements and the appointment of more judges based upon workload, etc. And so from there, then they needed some place to have some space, and so they could have just went into 215 South Pine and made it work, but they decided that if they were going to take on that load, that they should remodel that building according to the needs of the departments that they're going to place in there.
Right.
And I've been in there, walked around there, got a tour of the place, and yes, I think there definitely needs to be some improvements there. So that's just at they accepted a bid from Votes Construction for just a little under $2 million. Talking to Chad before the program, that wasn't something that was decided this Tuesday. It was decided last Tuesday.
It's been an ongoing thing. I mean,
But they got the contract,
they
right?
accept-
But
yes.
Votes got the contract.
Yes,
For that.
they accepted the bids about a week ago, and then everything got finalized.
Good.
This
Okay.
week. So that's the deal, and you know, this really did start with district court. What they did is they assigned a magistrate judge and then another, just a regular old-fashioned judge, district court judge, to Harvey County, and because of that, we needed more courtrooms.
Yeah.
We weren't. I mean, we've spent the last, I've been in and out of district court. This is going to sound bad. I've been in and out of district court for the better part of 20 years, all professionally. Okay, but
Are you sure?
There's always been some issues with that, right? And right down to how we get people out of the jail and into the courtroom, and you
Security.
There were all kinds of security issues, and then they converted a conference room to be used by the magistrate court judge. And you talk about security, holy mackerel, that was a security nightmare.
Real quick, I heard there's people that go into the court and just sit in there like weirdos.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
for a while I was kind of one of them.
What the hell what people are off, dude? I'm sorry. Okay, I will get back to that later.
Sometimes
You just triggered me.
Sometimes it's better than TV. I mean, I'm telling you. So
Well, normally, to be quite honest, there's, from what I understand, because what Andy's referencing something that legitimately happened to myself.
Sure.
And a loved one that I have that has had to walk through some processes for decisions made.
Yeah.
And I had an individual, for purely political reasons, obviously, show up to just those court dates. And it was kind of funny, actually. I mean, I actually found it very humorous, to be quite honest, because when I first went in there and we were waiting to go into the courtroom, all the attorneys and everybody was talking out in the hallway about who's the weirdo in there. Now I'm not saying that it was the words that they used. Okay, so we're not bashing the attorneys for using unpolitically correct terminology.
They just wanted to know who the stranger
who's
was.
the stranger?
And then check for weapons.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And then they were talking about the fact that relatively, and I'm sure there's some exceptions to the rule, nobody shows up to those court dates except for, the last time they could remember was during like the COVID-19 thing.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something that most people don't do. If you don't have business there, you're not going to go show up and just for enjoyment purposes watch a court date of somebody else randomly. It's not what people normally do.
But
no.
It's like, so why the hell would somebody do that? I mean, for me, it's weird, but there's innuendos, there's gossip, there's people in other people's business to the point of ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how I would find time to go do something like that. I really wouldn't care to.
Not once, but twice.
And it's like, you're either trying to confirm lies or you're part of the gossip. Like, or you're trying to say, oh yeah, well, there's people lying because what I heard apparently is not true. So, and I could have some grace for that, but that's still off.
Oh, you mean,
or you're part of the propaganda.
I mean,
What do you do? What do you do? Dude, I would be on blast. I would make posters. I would put them all over my signs. I would take pictures and put it up.
Well, you can't have you're really not supposed to have a phone.
I would take pictures somehow.
And
get my watch.
I mean, it's
cameras can't make noise,
yeah.
right? So, well.
You're
I'm
just
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm going
You talked about professional and unprofessional. I'm like, well, what is this category? Yeah.
I don't know. You ask them, and they're not real sure why they're there either. So, I don't know.
That's on the creep side, bro.
It is creep side.
That's creepy, dude.
That's nothing.
That's just creepy.
Well,
if there's not a legit conversation with you as a man, That's creepy, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's creepy. It was creepy.
That's next for me. I would confront that.
Well, and in like fashion, I did.
Oh, good. You did. I'm shocked.
I did. No. Everybody knows me.
Sorry.
I mean, I'll just fly off the handle and attack people.
Get the cops calling you again.
Get the cops calling me.
Because you've been in
for
and out of
asking
court
somebody what their effing problem is. I mean, I swear to God, I had a situation, and these people are not off the table.
Right.
Remember, just because you are here's the funny thing. What people don't realize, and I did talk to an attorney about this, because I wanted to make sure when I had something to say on the program that I was not violating or going to be
Was it a real attorney?
It was a real attorney.
You wanted to make sure you were above the board.
Yes,
right?
yes. So
you were right.
Technically, for those that don't think they are, precinct committee people who are elected to office are considered public officials. Okay, so the same requirement goes for what people want to levy against me, which is lie, say whatever you want to say, call people whatever you want to call them. Just make it up. Just make it up.
They're covered.
They're covered because that would be a violation of their First Amendment right. And so if you ever notice, especially in my situation, it seems like only when I'm running for office do people have something to say. Other than that, they don't have anything to say. So anyway, just to go back to this, okay? So if you are part of the committee for a county party, then you are technically considered a public official. So if I wanted to say whatever I wanted to say about these individuals, be it true or not, well, they're fair game. So enjoy that, because I'll talk about now something that I was just completely taken back by. Everybody knows I'm a Republican. Some would argue that, but let's just say I identify as a Republican. So, I mean, all three of us at this table are Republicans, even though we don't necessarily, I mean, some might question that. I don't know. Chad, some people might question whether you're a Republican, or Andy, whether you're a Republican, or whether I'm a Republican.
I am a registered Republican, and that makes me a Republican.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, well, it depends on who's writing the definition. That's constantly changing, right?
No,
because
no, it doesn't. No.
Oh,
it does not rely on any definitions. I am a registered Republican. Period.
But you're a PSYOPs Republican.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. We'll call you names.
You can
Chad.
call me whatever you want, and most of those
You're
names
one of them dirty
I'll
Christians.
tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Okay, so now this is crazy. I mean, and I say crazy as in like literally. All right, I try to not use the term crazy, because I think that's real dismissive of people and what they're trying to accomplish. So you could use other words like misled or whatever the case may be. But I showed up to see what was going to happen with the Republican Central Committee leadership.
Hey, this is local.
Yes.
Total local.
That
Total
was
local.
And you're a
Yesterday.
That was
Republican
yesterday.
on paper.
Yep.
I'm
Yes,
a
I am.
Republican on paper, apparently.
Yeah. So as I'm trying to find this information
Never
out
get
about,
invited to the party, but
well,
I
you
don't even get emails
yeah.
anymore, and
I don't
actually help
either.
set up that account. But that's a whole nother story.
That's an interesting thing there, because that kind of leads me into what I was doing. I used to get emails notifying me of what was going on with the Republican Party, and there was just this big vacuum. They never send them out. They had this problem with figuring out how to try to work the thing to be able to send out emails and all this stuff. Like, just for instance, do not visit, and who knows what people will do, but do not visit the website for the Harvey County Republican Party, because I had confirmation last night that it still is down and gives out viruses to people. Okay, so if you go click on it, then you're susceptible to a virus. And that came from the person, Chuck Haynes, who actually set the website up.
That sounds like deep state.
Oh, yeah, of course. It was Lance Gormley that did it. That'd be the next thing.
Well, I actually own the domain, but we'll talk about that some other time. If somebody wants to buy it, call me. I'm up for offers.
20 grand, 50 grand.
We'll see who calls.
I'll give you $1
For you, I'll do it for 50 cents.
Half price deal, baby. That's almost Black Friday, and it's not even Black Friday yet. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so we don't get into the weeds here. Well, I was trying to figure out, well, when is this? Because I still want to be participatory in it. I still view myself as somebody that's a Republican. I started the Harvey County Young Republicans. I've countless issues that have come up over time that are what you would consider Republican agendas, from making sure that school bond initiatives that conservatives didn't believe should be passed didn't get, on and on. Okay, so done my due diligence to show up and help work, if you want to call it that. So turns out that, I guess that the Republican chairman decided to go through and purge a bunch of names of individuals that he didn't agree with being Republicans. So then that, I guess, was me, amongst other people. And I'm not getting into this, but I just got to say this. Okay, after sitting there and watching the circus, and that's the best possible thing I can call it. It was a circus, okay? You had the four people, which were Stuart Reimer, chair, Jerry Clausen, I believe. No, it would be Jenny Eiserhart is the vice chair, Jerry Clausen is the secretary, and Ed Myers would be the treasurer. And all of these people, for a very long time, minus the exception of Stuart Reimer, have been on that part of that central committee for a very long time. Well, there was four people that wanted to challenge that. And one of those was Mike Fellows for chair, Becca McBroom, vice chair. Then there was Chuck Haynes for secretary, and then there was Kevin Pouch for treasurer. Right. So for the first time in a long time,
you had a group of four people.
Yes.
That would have been excellent at each of the positions that they were applying for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so
and I'm not making a statement about the people who were already in those positions. I'm just saying you had a slate of people that would have been absolutely excellent for what they were asking to
I'm
do.
trying to get into like the educational part of this program, because maybe people I'm speaking Greek to people, but what happens is each county in the state of Kansas across the United States are separated into wards and precincts. You have wards and then you have precincts within the ward. In those geographical guidelines, you have a certain amount of people. County parties then have the ability to have precinct committee people. So what happens is people within that specific precinct and ward vote for who they want their precinct committee person to be. All of those precinct committee people are then precinct committee people for 2 years based upon appointment or election. From there, then, they are the ones that are responsible for voting for the leadership. So every 2 years, you have what's called a reorganizational meeting. So all of those people get together for a meeting. It's conducted. It's a public meeting. You can attend. I think anybody can attend. I'm not 100% sure whether that's the case, but I don't know why anybody would be turned away. And all of those people then go through and they vote. Now, where it gets weird, okay, and what I mean weird is I'm in there. I'm a lay person. I am not running for any office. I am not a precinct committee person. I'm just there. And it comes to the point where the chairman has the opportunity to talk about committee reports. Basically, the chairman committee report. This is where it gets weird. I'm telling you, it gets weird. So then the chairman started in about one committee person, precinct committee person, that had a Democrat sign in their yard a year ago when the school board was having elections. So I guess he drove by somebody's house, noticed that they had an Erica Stevens sign in their yard. It's a nonpartisan race, but yet somehow or another this offended this person. So he goes up to the house and he tries to tell him, you need to take that sign out of your yard. Okay. No, it gets better. It gets better. Okay, it gets better. Woo! Okay, yeah, you can't make this up. Okay.
Man.
So then,
hell no.
Okay, so then, right, the person explains to him, which was Mike Fellows, who was running for the chair position. Now, this was before there was nominations or anything of the sort. This person was just using their ability as the leadership to rag on people. So, I mean, I can't make it up. I don't mean to monologue so long here, but I mean, I'm just interested or just completely caught off guard why I use the term crazy. So then it turns into, Kevin Pouch received, they had a left-wing Democratic front group that donated to both Kevin Pouch's and Lance Gormley's campaign this last primary. And that's completely unfounded. I've looked through all that. I can't find anything what they're talking about, I just, to be completely honest.
There's been something going through my brain here.
Come on, Chad, let it go.
Go ahead.
So what you're saying right now, leads me to believe that we have a chair of the Harvey County Republican Party that is acting in a way that is not congruent with one of the former chairs. Because we had Jason Mitchell say publicly, and I think it was at one of the ice cream socials, he didn't care why somebody was going to be in the Republican Party or where they came from. If they lived in Harvey County, he wanted them there. And that was during one of the primaries where there was a challenger for Carolyn McGinn. And because of the nature of the challenger, there were a number of Democrats in this county that went in and re-registered so they could vote in the primary. And there wasn't going to be a Democrat on the ticket, so they went and re-registered. And he stood there in front of the entirety of the party and made the statement, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
They're coming, and I don't care.
Yeah.
But it strikes me that our current chair is not acting that way.
Well, it gets worse. It gets worse.
Am I wrong?
No, it gets worse.
And let me be really blunt.
This was last night?
There is no love lost between me and Jason Mitchell.
Yeah, but you're being.
None.
But we're all about giving credit where credit's due.
Hey, guy, you're.
Yeah, yeah. Well, even
That's a great
Jason
way
would
to
openly,
act.
even Jason would openly tell you that he's more libertarian than he is Republican.
Right, but he was.
I got a lot of
He was
libertarian in me.
acting
I think
in a
a lot of Republicans do.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it gets worse. Okay, so after making a baseless claim that obviously was what the story was when they were trying to get their candidate elected to county commission, which obviously happened to be the one that I was running for the same position with here. So anywho, then he comes off with that Lance Gormley had a Democrat candidate sign in his yard and also had a write-in candidate sign in his yard. And I'm just sitting there like, I mean, are you serious? Like, wait, what do I have anything to do with any of this? Like,
Well,
I'm not
what I
running
wonder
for
is
any office.
what those
but no, this guy
conversations look like when
drove
you're
by
not
my
there.
house. But I'm telling you, the guy drove by my house.
That's weird.
Took pictures of signs that I had in my yard. Okay, super creepy, super stalkerish. So that way, he thought, by God, that I'm going to have ammo against Lance Gormley. So I'm going to show up to a meeting where Lance Gormley's not even running. Lance Gormley's not even a part of it. I'm just there, and I think it would have been the same if I wasn't there. I don't know. Like, you have a speech prepared. Like, if Lance Gormley shows up, I'm going to have this speech prepared. I mean, he was bashing Kevin Pouch, and like they don't even understand how PACs work, right?
So
like,
is he setting up a litmus test here?
Yes, absolutely. It gets worse. Okay, so then Mike Fellows comes back, and of course all this meeting is regulated, so you can't be out of order.
So it's an official meeting.
Yeah, I couldn't even say anything during the whole meeting. I could not debate. I couldn't say anything. I just had to sit there.
I don't think you have to. Until now. This is great. Go ahead. I want to know play by play. You got me in it.
So is it being operated under Robert's rules?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
a lot of people don't know what those say.
Well, like so basically, when he's having the committee report, he's just throwing out there, right? What's taking place? Okay, whatever he wants to say, I guess, is what he wants to say. And so then it was, I'm like shaking my head, and people are looking at me, and they're just laughing and laughing. Like, where does this guy come from? You know, what is this guy doing? Right. Well, then. Later on, Mike brings up the fact, who was somebody that was, I know I'm getting into the weeds because you might not know who Mike is, you might not know who those, but somebody else brings up the fact like, hey, there's no rules against me putting a person's sign in my yard during a nonpartisan race. Like it's a nonpartisan race. So this guy's showing up to my house.
Wink, wink. Nonpartisan. Wink, wink.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Because we never want to be honest about.
Yeah,
this
no,
stuff,
nobody wants
okay.
to be honest.
All
Yeah.
Okay, so by nonpartisan race, the definition is that their party is not listed on the ballot.
Yeah, it's for school board. It's for
There
school
you go.
board.
But
right?
if you know, you know.
Well, we make sure that we check them.
People know party
Everybody knows that I'm
affiliations.
pretty conservative.
Yeah.
Right, but at
Until
the end
you
of the
have
day-
a sign for somebody.
Oh, no. Until I disagree with anything
Yes,
that one of the
anything.
leadership people say.
Yeah.
This is our customer fate with no debate, by the way.
No.
And no questions asked.
yeah, no.
Like, I don't roll like that. So, anyway, if you can't tell.
Yeah, you're not. Well, I can't use the word.
Hurry up and shut up?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't use the word that
Sorry.
I would use because I found that I thought it meant one thing, which it did, but it also has a weird connotation to it too. So we don't want to get into any like profanity. Okay. So then I'm sitting there and I'm watching this unfold and I'm just like, wow. This is just unreal. This is out of this world, right? And God bless some of these people's hearts. I mean, Kevin Pouch is on the Central Kansas Community Foundation. He's on the board, I believe, for a lot of these things that focus on raising money. So his big deal is, hey, I'm involved and I want to be able to focus on raising some money for the party. Then you had Becca.
Great idea.
Yeah. Then you had Chuck, who said, "Hey, I designed this website. I've been involved in helping with the social media of this. I've been doing all this stuff." He even mentioned, it'd be great to have a podcast, right? A podcast where we just had Republican people come on and we could talk about it or whatever the case may be. And it's like, hey,
what an idea.
That's great. I'm for that. I think that's a great idea. Another one, was then Becca. Poor Becca McBroom.
She's awesome.
She's awesome. She
has
is
a
a lovely
wonderful
woman.
heart.
Yeah, a big heart. And that showed, and she talked about how she wanted for there to be unity and that there was a lot of tension in the room. And
she means that.
Yeah, and she said, I want to be able to meet younger people. I think we're losing the battle on younger people getting involved. And I want to try to reach out to younger people at the high school level even, to be able to just accentuate Republican principles and bring people into the fold. And we don't all have to agree on everything, but just, let's... What?
You don't have to agree on everything?
Well, I mean, I think, I hate to say it, but for some people, yes, you do. And we've had discussions about this, which I'm not for. Okay, so...
I'm shocked.
So, breaking this down farther, not to expel too much more time on it because we're taking up a lot of time and I'm monologuing here. But then Mike brings up the fact that, he's been involved in all these ways. He's had precinct. He wants monthly meetings, all of this. And
I thought they were going to do that from last year when you ran.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, whatever. Promise. I mean, hey, you know what? I'll just say this. I'm beginning
no, but for real. Then wasn't there like that, all the stuff that you wanted to do, they were going to do?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just not on the email list. Okay, we digress. Go ahead.
No, they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. And it was pretty...
No, we're not on the email list.
I'm not on the email list.
Well, and it was
that
even
I created.
worse. Like, it was even worse, and I just kept shaking my head because when given the opportunity to speak, the original 4 people had nothing to say. And there was and then it was even worse because they had 10 minutes for question and answer. Each candidate had a minute to speak, and they were asked one question. Okay? Because, well, if you have 10 minutes for question and answer, each get a minute to answer, and you have 8 of them, then how do you even have more than one? So more of the same, okay? Well, then it gets into Mike bringing up the fact that this Stewart guy, okay? It's the circus, right? The Stewart guy showed up to my loved one's court date twice. And like wanted to stalk me. I mean, it's like you're driving by my house, dude. You're taking pictures of my house. You're coming and showing up to my loved one's court date, so that way you can have your presence there somehow.
That's wild.
You are making up things and lying about me. Here's the thing. I got news for you people. I'm not going to vote for a Republican that's a lying, conniving, scandalous person. I'm just not going to do it over a Democrat who's honest, trustworthy, has integrity, experience, and knowledge. You're not going to make me eat shit. I'm sorry. You're not going to do it. That is not me. I'm not going to do it. Well, it's the truth. This is the problem. This is the problem with our current system. Our current system is well, if this person is, and I'm going to use the word, a deplorable. okay, then there are Republicans that are deplorables. I just have to say this, and I'm sure some of you will just get on it or whatever. Okay, this is all my. I'm expressing my First Amendment right.
This is
to
better
speak.
than a Xanax.
Okay, so am I losing it here, guys?
Yeah, just a little bit. That's all right.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not going to do it.
It's on the way out. It's about to hit the water.
You're not going to
squeeze it out.
You're not going to force feed. It just goes back to this. Okay, do you guys feel that if I came to you and I said, hey, this is what you have to vote for. This person lies. This person's sneaky. This person's conniving. This person is not honest.
Everything that is projected on you.
Well, of course.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
That's usually how
of
that
course.
works.
But that you, now I demand that you vote for that person because they have an R in front of their name. Yeah. What is this? Like, I don't understand this.
It is political tribalism that has been running rampant nationally and locally for decades.
Well, but that's where all those silly games come into play, right? When you're put into this funnel where you can only do A, B, or C, and there's no D. And sometimes there needs to be a D, all of the above, right? Depending on my choices are going to be my choices. And I do vote party, I think 99% of the time. Especially if I don't know too much about it, just because of the values that you're supposed to stand for, which don't always hold, by the way. Anyways, but at the end of the day, this situation locally, I've stepped away from quite a while ago, even though I vote the way I do and people call and I help with campaigns on the background and I knock a bunch of doors and I do all that stuff for the people that I choose to do it for. It's sad that we have so-called leadership that doesn't lead on a local level.
But that's leadership, Andy.
No.
What you just heard was leadership.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
We're going to make sure that you have
the real
to
leaders
think
don't.
like
The real leaders smell it, and I think other people. The reason there's so much insecurity is when they don't want to debate, they don't want to speak out up front. It's they're getting caught, just not being upfront about things, or trying to not let people in because they don't want the people to see how it's really working, which means you're not confident because you don't know what you're doing. And at the end of the day, it shows, right? It's embarrassing. And then to take it to the next level where, frankly, straight up, I mean, if you're coming to my family's court date, I mean, you're going to hear about it, and I'm going to call you a weirdo.
Yeah, I called him a weirdo.
And I'm
creepy.
Dude, it's off, dude.
Well,
it's off.
You're driving by my house and taking pictures of my house.
Hey, dude, this is what's going on. Here's what's going on. Here's what I've heard. This is why I'm doing it. Do what you got to do. But if you're just showing up and just don't have no explanation and it's just weird, you know what I mean? And people could feel that.
Yeah.
Where's the sense?
Well, don't you know who that person is?
It's off,
Don't
dude.
you know who that person is? Well, he's the spouse of a Harvey County commissioner.
Oh, I know. That's
he's the
makes me worry
Republican
about
Party
things, so maybe they
chairman.
should run for office in themselves and stand the test of time.
Well, after I saw him get kind of angry last night, I don't think he's got much of it in him.
Let me be straight. Yeah, he's the spouse of so and so, and he's now the chair of the Republican Party again. You think the judge gives a rat?
No.
Judge don't care.
They shouldn't.
The judge looks around that courtroom, and the only thing they're thinking about when they sit down and they see people who they don't normally see, and if they see people they know aren't involved in the case, here's what they're thinking. Okay, is this a juvenile case? Do I need to clear the courtroom? Are there any other extenuating circumstances that would lead me to need to clear the courtroom? And straight up, all the judges around here know who all the people like me are, and they can identify us on site.
Right.
And so that's part of their thought too. So, you're just some guy sitting in a corner to me. I mean,
Yeah.
And wondering what are you doing?
And
it's everybody's right. I mean, and this is the other part.
They
Everybody
probably
has,
don't care.
Everybody has a right to go in and do that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have a right to do that.
Yes, you do.
But that in this scenario with this case, that's wild.
Yeah.
That is off. It is.
Well, you know,
I just laugh like,
what
you're
other
crazy.
Dude, you're in a rocket headed toward the moon by yourself.
You know,
and going, whoa! You know what I mean?
You are.
Like,
because you're not.
Whoa! What kind of fuel are you taking? You know what I'm saying?
If you go back in time a decade or so, we had court watchers.
Yeah.
Okay? We had the people who, like me, thought it was better than TV. So that's where they would go. And, you know, there were times that things were coming up that, they're going to clear the courtroom.
I can't help it.
So we had him, but that's not who he is.
When I was laying my head down last night and I was thinking about all this strangeness that I just had experienced over the last couple of weeks, I mean, it's really what it is. Okay,
yeah, we're living in weird times.
I just thought to myself, you know, it must be really. I mean, I don't know how to feel about the fact that I'm so great that people are so infatuated with me, guys. I don't know how to say it any different. It's like, I mean, the only thing I can think about is that, you know, I must be so interesting or dynamic or whatever the case may be.
I ask you this.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think that it's because it's my good looks, or you think it's just because I'm so articulate, or do you think it's because do I just exude greatness, Chad?
Do you think Mike Tyson is feeling the same way right now?
Hey, I know Mike Tyson's got paid. And I've never been paid for any of this. This is not fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so we rested there a long time, and I just had to share that experience to just say, you know, the nature of politics and people. I mentioned a while back, you know, being on the verge of a civil war in this country, and I don't think it's changed. I think that, which leads me to this next thing. Okay, so
you mentioned that. I find it ridiculously ironic that Marjorie Taylor Greene goes walking out there to talk about a national divorce on the 19th of November. I find that ridiculously ironic, and I find it incredibly disrespectful to one of our greatest leaders ever. I find what happened at the Republican Party of Harvey County last night, again, November 19th, just as disrespectful to Abraham Lincoln as well.
They're not thinking about that, Chad. That's not
I know they're not thinking about it.
No.
And you know why I
More
know they're not
concerned with
thinking about
who's
it?
sign in whose yard.
You know why I know they're not thinking about it? I have spent the last 24 hours going, do you know what November 19th is? And nobody can frickin' tell me. November 19th is the date of the Gettysburg Address. One of the single greatest speeches ever delivered by a president in the history of this country. And you know what he talked about in that speech? That a government of the people, for the people, by the people shall never perish. That was the purpose of the Civil War, according to him, in that speech. That from that moment on, we are all responsible to make the sacrifices needed to make sure that a government of the people, for the people, by the people never ceases. So now we've got a congressman walking around talking about the national divorce on the anniversary of that speech. Get out of here.
Well, and there's nothing.
Can I tell you some more stuff though, real quick? I mean, guys, November 19th is Entrepreneurs Day as well. It's World Toilet Day, International Men's Day, and Have a Bad Day.
Well,
and
there you go.
When you Google it, nowhere in there does it give what you just said. But
Yeah,
that's
you
what
know where you have to go to find it?
Wild?
You know
Yeah,
where you
it
have
is
to go
wild.
to.
Like it should be the number 2 or 3, the first
Right.
2 or 3 things
Yes,
on
yes,
Google
yeah.
should give me that, and then you give me these alternatives.
You know
Yeah.
where you have to go to find that date? You have to go
It's not on Google.
Nope. You got to go to like the Lincoln Library and Depository.
Oh,
and then
wow.
they have a selection of a few of his speeches that stand out above the rest, because
Right.
in his day you had to give a lot of speeches.
Yeah.
And And that's where you find it. You find it when you click on the link for the Gettysburg Address.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on with some
By the
of this
way, I
stuff.
posted the entirety of that address on my Facebook page yesterday, but
Don't let me
there you go.
forget that I want to mention something. Okay, so about North Newton, before we get off, that's my last word. But, we talk about the divisiveness at a local level, and then let's move over to a national level. Cake News reported President-elect Donald Trump confirmed he plans to declare a national emergency and use the military for mass deportations.
Say that one more time.
President-elect Donald Trump confirmed he plans to declare a national emergency and use the military for mass deportations.
Yeah, I think there's 500,000 off the top that have criminal records that they're aware of that they're going to be looking for at the very front end of that. 500,000 with criminal records, right off the top. And then after that, I don't know what's the next, but that's pretty decent emergency in my book.
Okay, and I got to say this, not anti-Trump here, okay, but
Boo.
is that the here we go, not a Republican, because I don't think we should activate the military to go out and drag people out of their homes, shoot them.
It's
if
not their
that's what we
homes.
got to do. Yeah, it's not their homes. It's not their homes.
So my tax dollars in our land.
Okay, so don't get me started on this. Okay, so, what I got to say is this: is thinking outside the box here. There's a middle ground here. There is a middle ground here, and I don't believe that it's the job of the military necessarily to go out, boots on the ground, to round up these people. I think a natural process could rue the day, where, until these people come into contact with law enforcement, once they come into contact with law enforcement and they're known by the local law enforcement that they are not here legally, that then there is a method in which then they are detained, that there's adequate, federal bureaucracy, if you want to call it that, to come and make the determination to then have those people deported.
You're talking about the process that has failed Harvey County repeatedly.
Yeah, I think the sheriffs
already?
That
it's
has
a
to
lot
do
for
with
the
your federal
sheriffs, too.
bureaucracy.
I'm just saying.
The sheriffs are already short-staffed as it is, trying to find people to do the jobs they need to do. And when you get this influx in some parts of the country, I know we have it here too. I don't want to say anything about the numbers that I looked at because of some of the things I'm a part of. But in a certain system that I watch, it's kind of a telltale sign for me in my own little weird way of looking at things. There's systems in our community, but if you look at one system and you look at the other, numbers are off, but one system will tell you something the other numbers won't. And there was like 43 extra in one certain system in our community that had an influx of 43, which tells me there's somewhere out there 43 families that speak certain languages and stuff, right? That are accompanying a group of people. To me, it's a telltale sign of more of the real number. And then you also, when you hate sex trafficking, violently hate sex trafficking, there's a certain group of people that gets used in that. And so you want to pay attention to those things around you so you can see if you could figure out how to out or find or gut these systems in your local community, because that's all we can do. So all that being said, I think, I would differ with you. I think a mandate to have federal help come in to especially find people if they have a general idea and they're going to move and be gone and hide, which is it's a big lift. But the first initial shot coming in after people, can people change? Absolutely. I'm all about the redemption story. But it is true that there were prisons that were emptied out and people dumped on buses, and people are here now. That's
and I'm
true.
not against, Andy. I'm not against what I'm not. Let me
And those
clarify.
but I just want to say though that there's a lot of those, and those are the numbers.
You're
that he's going
questioning the
after.
process.
That's correct. Not what needs to happen.
So you think our local sheriff should handle that?
Well, I think it needs to be the first contact may very well need to be with local law enforcement. And then from there, the U.S. Marshal Service
I'm
then
wondering
needs
if
to handle
they
that
don't
going
do
forward.
that.
Rather
Which is
than
why
having,
I mean,
what are we going to do?
this is why I made
Tanks? I mean, we're going to have the U.S. military.
That
Let's
would be
figure this
awesome.
out. How are we going to do this? Okay,
Well, I want
we're going to
regular tires so it doesn't mess up our streets.
we
roll a
have to
tank
figure
down the
out
middle
how
of the
we're gonna
road.
do
I mean,
this.
what do we? That's what I'm saying.
The devil is always in the details.
But we're going to use
And what you're going to
military
what you're
to do
at
this.
yes, that is what is being
National
advocated
Guard.
Interesting.
there. What you're advocating for is a system that's already in place that has failed us.
Well, by design, it's failed us because that's part of the executive
There's no
branch.
two ways around it.
But see, that's what I'm saying. The
Our-
U.S.
our
Marshal
co- our
Service is
local
part of the
cops-
executive branch, and they are the ones that if they are not funded and they are not directed by the executive branch to do what they're supposed to do, then they're not going to. You know, when we're talking about the situation that we had here locally when T. Walton was sheriff and they pulled somebody over, they found out that these were not legal immigrants, that then they called the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service
They
said,
called
we're not
ICE.
ICE. We're not going to pick them up because that's the directive
Yeah.
that we've been given from the current executive administration. So if likewise,
So
the
who
current
pays for
executive-
that at
We
that
do.
point? Well, we do. So then they only have so much in their budget. But if we have a national emergency, we're going to release funds for people to operate differently in that situation. And I think that's maybe where this is going to.
Yeah.
Which I don't know the ins and outs. I'm going to be hopeful. Again, we started this conversation today off with this. There's going to be a lot of massive action, fast, and there will be consequences. Mm-hmm. But
And
I
the
think
devil will always be in the details.
100%, and we will never get it all right. But in my world, there's spillage. But as long as there's more production than spillage, you've got to make the move.
But you also have, remember last week when we talked about polls, the majority of the American citizens believe that there should be a pathway to citizenship.
100%.
So we can't
And
talk
there's
out
people.
of both
I was
sides of
talking
our
to a friend
mouth
the
here.
other day. There's a person that works and has been here for 30 years that has gone through all the process, spent about $20,000, and still not been granted citizenship.
Yeah, it's not as easy as
It's
most
not
of
easy
us
at all.
want us to believe.
It's not easy at all.
Right.
So they've gone to attorneys, they've held a job, they've done all the stuff, and they still haven't been granted their citizenship. They pay taxes, they go to work, they're very productive. They've had to open businesses in another country because they don't have the ability to do it here because they're not a citizen.
Well, it goes back to classification.
So they are living here, supporting a family over there, and have opened 2 businesses in another country, and we're not unleashing them on our American economy. Unbelievable.
Okay, but it goes back to this.
Yeah.
Refugee status versus immigration status. And our policy still, to this day, hear me out here, is that if you come from somewhere illegally that's bordering the United States, so if you hop the fence from Canada to America, or you hop the fence from Mexico to America, then when you are found out, you are immediately, there's a pathway to deport you back to the country. Now, if you come from a country that does not border the United States, you try to claim asylum because of political or violent or whatever reason that is listed, then you're granted refugee status. So it goes back to the semantics of, so what we're going to do is we're going to round up illegal immigrants. Well, technically, what is an illegal immigrant? Is an illegal immigrant a refugee that was deemed a refugee by a former...
And what about those people
I mean-
that came here at 11 years old that are now 40, that have worked here and been here their whole lives and never been able to be legal, but they came here at 11. They had no choice in the matter. But they speak English. They work in our companies. They do all the things. Been educated mostly here. They haven't been able to go visit their family in, let's just say, 25 years. And they don't know what to do.
Devil's in the details.
The devil is always in the
according
And
to,
how do we get
yeah.
that person checked, background, and citizenship yesterday in this whole mess on top of everything going on? And this system has been gummed up even more now over the last 4 years to make that even harder than it already is. It's broken. It's broken.
It's broken. Our system is broken, and we, and here's this interpretation.
And we need labor.
I go back to this.
Yes, we do.
What's interpretation?
Our food, if you want our food prices to go up, be careful how you make this play. That's all I'm saying. Again, devil's in the details.
Devil's in the details.
The spillage will be there. And there's a lot of people working jobs keeping our costs down right now, because it would be a lot worse if we didn't make the moves. And that border was open for a lot of reasons to make this election look a little better, and it was a total failure. But if the numbers were really the numbers, it would be horrific.
Well, to change speed a little bit, and I'm trying to do this on purpose because I think a lot of this comes down to what we talk about, which is perspective. And I've talked many times about definition. And this is regional news here. It turns out that the wife of Sedgwick County Commissioner-elect has been charged with electioneering. She wore, when she went in to vote, a Jeff Blubaugh, I believe is his name, shirt that was advocating for his election. Her name is Megan, his wife. When was asked to and told that she was not allowed to wear that shirt while voting, she just told him, well, I'm going to wear it anyway. And so somebody took a picture of it, there was the evidence, and now she's getting charged with electioneering. Do you know the amount of people on social media that wanted to give her a pass because she's a Republican and who she was advocating for? But then again, if it was somebody that was advocating for a Biden supporter, a Harris supporter, or something, it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? And we are in a situation where this is not the case.
So I have a very close friend who in 2016 walked into a polling site in Harvey County.
If you guys smell something, I'm sorry.
It's okay. with a Make America Great Again hat on. He was told he had to take it off because it was a campaign slogan. And that man was livid, beyond livid. And I sat and listened to him for the better part of 5 minutes. And when he was done, I looked at him and I said, it is a campaign slogan. It can't be within 250 feet of the front door of a polling site. I'm sorry. That's the law.
Well, what if my blue hat had 45 on it? Nobody told me anything. Did I get away with the crime?
Are you saying you voted for... Oh, my goodness.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I'm just saying.
Chad's getting pissed. I'm getting ready to get done.
Watch the camera, Chad. Watch the camera when you swing.
Was that considered a campaign slogan? Was it central to his campaign?
That's for each individual county clerk. I mean, yes.
I think you could justify that.
Yes.
If I was a poll worker and given my instructions, I would snap a picture.
Okay. But I mean, that's the rules.
Well, and they're pretty easy about it. I mean, if they tell you, hey, you can't wear a campaign shirt here, or you need to turn it inside out, all you got to do is say, my bad, I'm going to do that. But then after being informed that what you're doing is electioneering and you're not allowed to do that, this person was obstinate about it and then decided, you can't tell me what to do. And you know why you can't tell me what to do? Because my husband is going to be elected to office, and that.
My gosh, you might not work this poll
That's
ever
right.
again.
Yeah. Control.
I'm going to show you.
Okay, so we come back to this,
power.
okay? My theme here is hypocrisy, okay? Once again, I talk about a long program, but it's just hypocrisy. If you are unable to see and smell your own doo-doo, and realize that you have your own biases.
Mine right now, did you? Did you smell it? No, I don't have a gopher yet. It was pretty smooth. It just squeaked right on out.
But but this is where we're at, right? I'm going to say it's frustrating. It's like we'll go back to this whole common theme here. What if I was the one showing up to somebody's court date?
Yeah, that's weird.
What if I was the one that was driving around taking pictures of people's yards to see who campaign signs they had to use it against them? What if I was, well, then that would be wrong because you're you and
what
not
if you were the
me.
one who had an RV painted up with your name and all that stuff all over it and showed up at the county courthouse in the middle of early voting, parked it in the parking lot, and started a campaign speech? What if that were you, Lance?
Well, then that would be wrong. But if it was the rhyme or reason wagon that they had that they parked out in front of the courthouse within 250 feet that had a big slogan on it.
I'm going to poke the bear. So, since it was Ron Estes, was it okay?
Absolutely not. And
Okay,
and to be totally
Because
honest,
then-
I think it was.
because,
I'm just saying
you know,
that one is different.
because it is
you
one
know,
on SC. I mean,
that
I'm
one's
a
different.
Republican.
You've
Our
got
county
to
clerk,
realize,
our
like-
county clerk marched
like,
right out there and
you
said,
gotta
"Get the
trust."
heck out of here."
Yeah, and then not only that, but you know what? I tell you this, you would be surprised at the amount of people that would say, "Well, that should be allowed because they're a Republican
And they
we
stand
need a
on it.
Yeah, in fact, if I have
Only
a
if it's on
problem
my
with
side.
if I have a problem with it, then somewhere in some weird sneaky little way, it becomes I'm not a Republican because I have a problem with that because somebody else seems okay. The nature of politics has not changed. It's not changed. I've tried to see if when
It's gotten more ignorant.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gotten ignorant. It's
Oh,
changed.
so
It
petty
has
and
changed to
ignorant.
the point of
And more belligerent.
here's what I
yeah.
see. Here's what I talked about this to a young man that I've watched grow up. Very proud of him. I got to have coffee with him this morning. I hadn't checked in with him in like a year and a half. And I was blessed enough to go to his wedding recently. And I'm just so proud of him. And he asked me about politics for the first time and some of the views that I have. And I told him that I'm sick and tired of the manipulation on both sides at the national level especially, but I'm even seeing it locally. And I saw some text messages last night on what we talked about today. And I just told him that, you know, it's just silly. But what I'm seeing in politics is people that will look you in the face and tell you that they have the answer. And you have to trust them with all this power and just do what they say because they know what's right for you. And you just need to trust the process. And they're so convinced that they're the ones with the answer. And their little group. And they convince a few other people of this stuff. And then they just take this out like gospel. And they shut down. And they terminate. And they discredit. And they have lies and innuendos behind the scenes. And they're talking about you. And you don't even know what's going on. And when you confront them, they act shocked.
Oh, I didn't say that.
I didn't say that,
didn't say
or
that.
we only talked about it twice.
Why are you
and
attacking
It was only
me?
a few people in the room, and
You're
well, you
attacking
might have
me.
heard it because of this. It's like, no, I've heard it because you've said whatever you said so many times that it's manifested itself into something different. And why the hell are you talking about it anyways when it's not true? Who told you? Because if you don't tell me, I'm telling people that you're the ones that are lying because it's a lie. And when they don't tell you, they're liars.
Well, it's okay to lie, Andy. I mean, even though you know it's
and
okay
it's
to
like,
lie.
but
in
you
there,
don't
okay.
understand. My lie is the righteous one.
Yeah, because it's
My lie is the one that you need to listen because I have a bigger picture and you just can't understand it. And I don't need to explain it to you, damn it, because you're too damn ignorant and ridiculous to understand my big picture and what's been gifted to me by Christ himself. And you just need to trust me.
Hey, if that's not explanatory of what I've had to confront over the last however many months,
seeing
you know,
from both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
And it's the vitriol and the words hate begin to trickle in.
Oh, yeah.
On both sides of that. And people that I love are on both sides of that.
Yeah, I tell you, last night I honestly thought.
And yes, I lean. Probably some people think hard right. But damn it, I love everybody. And I'm willing to have a conversation. And if you're going to give me some information that's going to change my perspective, even though I might not like it off the front end because I've been indoctrinated to a certain level on some of these topics, I'm one that will stew and think about it. And I have a Holy Spirit inside of me that will tell me and wrestle me down to allow me to look at it objectively. And I may call you 2 or 3 days later and say, thank you for changing my life. And maybe I don't agree with you holistically, but I see where you're at and how you got there. And that just helped me understand somebody else that thinks like you.
Goes back to last night.
That does not happen
Andy.
anymore. And that's sad.
You know what? Last night I had the mental picture of, you know what I should have done? I should have built a cross, wheeled it in here, and with a hammer and nails and just said, crucify me. Crucify me.
That was pretty dramatic.
Well, that is very dramatic. But
it's what happened
I find
metaphorically.
Oh, you're going to get it for that one.
Metaphorically, that's exactly what happened.
Incredibly interesting some of the language that you guys are using.
Did I say the F-bomb? I didn't say
you
it.
didn't.
Okay.
But you got wild, Andy.
I'm going to tell you why. Because every election season, I get the messages, and y'all need to stop. I can definitely be a Christian if I don't vote the same way you do.
What?
And I am tired of seeing you can't be a Christian and vote this way.
Yeah.
Because over and over and over again, I'm going to try and not get too worked up, but over and over and over again,
there it goes.
You guys
dropped.
you guys are trying to point to some specific issue, and they're telling me I can't be a Christian unless I vote the same way you do. Guess what?
Only Republicans are Christians,
Those blasted issues, the church itself has been divided over for hundreds of years.
No. Not
So
your church.
do not
your
no,
church.
no.
Your church isn't the right church. So don't call yourself a church.
No.
Chad.
The church. Okay? It's the difference between the big C and the little c in the Catholic. All right? There's a difference. The Catholic Church is the Roman Catholic Church. Little c, Catholic, as it appears in the Martyr's Mirror, in the Apostles' Creed, with a little c. That is a universal. That is the universal church.
Catholic,
overall
Latin.
church.
Yes.
The church has been divided over many of these issues for hundreds of years.
Well, there was.
So do not tell me I can't be a Christian and vote differently than you do. You know what I'm going to tell you?
You just can't be a Republican.
You know what I'm going to You know what I'm going to tell you is what you are doing when you're doing that. You are advocating for your theocracy. My ancestors died fighting that.
Well, it comes down to control.
It's the only fight we've ever had.
It comes down to control, and I believe this. Hands down, it comes down to control. See, once again, we go back to the same thing that I said. I'll say it again and again and again and again until I'm blue in the face. We are in a state of play in which Republican, what does that mean? Democrat, what does that mean? Conservative, liberal, all these definitions change and we morph them and we make them out to be whatever we want them to be with different definitions all along the way all the time. And it's not about doing, like, especially here locally, it's not about doing what the Republicans want. It's about people that have hijacked the Republican Party that want to dictate what they want onto everybody else. It goes back to the same thing the Democrats are doing. So people who have gotten involved, it's like could be explained as like a church, just a toxic church, where if you're not holding the line, then you shouldn't be coming to church, and we're going to ostracize you, and we're going to make it to where you don't have freedom of speech and you don't have freedom of thinking, and if you don't think the way that we think, then you're not allowed. You're not allowed to come to church here.
I think that both sides are using of the political aisle, which is why I would love a third party to pop up that keeps everybody in check, because I think most America will fall in there. In my personal opinion,
Democrats
I know it's been
and Republicans
tried in the past,
will work
and I don't want to get
together
into the details.
to
But
stop it.
No, I totally agree with that statement.
Oh yeah,
too.
but Democrats will work with Republicans side by side,
take 'em
hand in
out.
hand,
So
to
they-
make
yeah,
sure that
yeah.
there is
Especially
nobody
in
other than
Washington.
yes.
especially in that
Believe
monster
it.
chain over there, and I hope it gets ripped apart. And that's a whole nother story. But let's end and with there's going to be some crisis, but let's get to work, Republicans, and I'm going to do everything I can on a local level to be the best person I can be to make this country better. But people have found a way, and there's this. I won't say his name because I don't know if he'll agree with this statement, but the guy that I consider a mentor and that I busted my butt for to try to help get elected at one point, talked to me and he gave me some information, but I took this out of the information. People have taken their preferences and they've confused them for principles, and they're standing on it as a principle, and they are governing in that way where it's like they can't separate the two. The blinds are up and the blinds are down. Conversation in your own household became that's why we're getting divorced. And they're doing that across the board. That's a subsection, to be clear, on so many different line items in the political spectrum that's gotten so morphed and dysmorphed. I mean, it's just been pulled apart where people can't even tell anymore what's a principle and what's a preference. And those of us that are trying real hard to get down to the core are being bastardized.
Well, in the religious world, you just break away and go start your own church, but you can't do that in the political world because there's structures in place. It's like having a church, the Republican Party Central Committee, and you can't break away from that. If you wanted to go say, well, I'm going to start my own Republican Party Central Committee, that's not how it works. So then everybody's beholden to the sycophants, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, but the tier up is, I'm going to say it out loud and real loud. The tier up that's supposed to be watching these groups is weak.
Oh, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not calling out the oversight of how this is working and you're supposed to get results for Republicans, you're fired.
The only goal is to elect Republicans.
You're more
interested
in power than you are in leadership.
Power and control. Power and control.
And there is a big difference between having power and being leadership.
And I have never, and I got to say this.
I'm going to say this too, straight up. If you were in a political leadership in Harvey County, and yes, I'm saying this straight up, and you were in a leadership position, and with the numbers we have, when Steve Kelly ran against Tim Hodge, if you lost and you were supposed to be helping Steve Kelly, you're fired.
Oh, it gets
You
worse
should have
than that.
fired your damn self.
Take into
With the numbers
consideration-
that we have, when you look at our voter rolls, you have no clue what you're doing.
The only goal, this is the only goal that I heard last night come out of the past and now continued Republican Central Committee was that they wanted to get Republicans elected, and they did that. Speaking of religion, government, Republicans, Democrats.
So if your only goal in Harvey County as the Republican Party, if your only goal is to get Republicans elected in Harvey County, good Lord, what a low goal.
Yeah,
That is
especially with the numbers that we have in the Midwest anyways.
Yeah.
And you're still losing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still threatened. I mean, that's
come
pathetic.
Hey, you're threatened by Republicans that aren't even elected to office.
You want some real stuff, man. If
That was
that's
good.
If
It's
your
true.
only
It is
goal
true.
as a Republican Party of Harvey County, if your only goal is to make sure that you get a Republican elected to the Harvey County Commission, dude, you got to aspire to something bigger than that.
It's
I'm
even more
telling you.
micro
And we
than
don't
that.
want. Yeah, we don't want that. We want to elect somebody that's going to do what we want them to do.
That's it. It's even more micro than that.
And
I mean,
again,
let's elect somebody that's a Republican, which to me is important for some reasons and a platform if it was really walked that way. But I digress. It's let's get a Republican that wants to do what we want them to do the way we think it needs to be done, and never really tell them that, and not have the balls to have the conversation with them one-on-one on why we think that's the way it needs to be, and take some possible feedback or actually get some pushback. And the people that they know, like myself, that think the way I think for myself, they don't want anything to do with people like me.
Well, they don't want
Because-
people that are going to rock their boat.
But it's not even. It's about let's make it better for everybody.
What,
Like,
you mean
and if you're
everybody?
like everybody.
No.
Like if you're gonna have a strong opinion, you're gonna have to sell that to me because I might think a little differently. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't buy into yours once I thought about it, but if you can't even have the talk with me,
No.
that's weak.
No,
I ain't following
we're
that.
not-
I'm just
no.
not doing it.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you that you're totally wrong on that, Andy.
Of course.
I mean,
That's why I've been.
This Republican Party's not for everybody. It's for.
I've been there. Feel like
us.
I'm excommunicated.
Well, you know, it is. They've made it out to be a church of some kind.
I'm on your raft, Lance. I'm paddling out by myself.
You know
bro,
what?
with you,
Our
me and
raft
you.
is so heavy.
And there's
at
some
this
people
point
that jumped
time.
in recently.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And now there's like 9 people paddling. I can't wait till there's 50.
Okay.
It's coming.
I still just go back to the fact that
there is a way that change can occur in the Harvey County Republican Party, but it is going to be very hard work, and I don't know that I have met anybody that's willing to do that yet.
I'm not afraid of a shovel.
So
it's what it is.
I grew
it's
up
more,
with one.
More people than and you know, speaking of the same thing and not leaving Democrats out here, there's a lot of work that needs to take place in the Democrat Party, and there's 2 things I want to cover before we end the show. While listening to the radio on the way in, I listened to an interview with the superintendent of the Oklahoma school district or school system, and he was elated that the Trump administration had vowed to do away with the Department of Education. They were going to put Bibles in all schools. So now Oklahoma has Bibles in all schools, and they're trying to formulate a requirement for teachers to teach the Bible in school. Thoughts?
This is where I'm going to get labeled. I am so against the teaching of Bible in schools. It's not even funny. Okay? Let me be blunt. I'm a Christian. And that's with a capital C. I am also an Anabaptist. And that's with a capital A. And what you are doing is setting up a move to a theocracy. And I'm against that. Completely and totally.
And this plays into the other portion I want to say. I think it's a good time to bring this into before we lean it over to Andy on this. But don't you know that since Trump got elected, we have a majority Senate and a majority House, that's what the American people want? That's what the American people decided, Chad, is that we are going to go in the direction of this come hell or high water. The people have spoken. The people have spoken. Not considering the fact, compounded by the fact that how many Democrats chose to vote for the
I'm going to
Republican.
speak directly to your mandate language. All right? Number one, to understanding where I'm going. Land does not vote. People do. Number two, when it comes to the presidency, the overall margin of victory was less than 2%. And only 2/3 of people eligible to vote voted. That does not sound like a mandate to me.
Just ask the people that are saying that it's a mandate. Andy, Bibles in schools, teaching Bibles in schools, having Bibles in schools, and the election being a mandate.
I'm for it. But here's the thing. You've got to be ready because it's a free country. And with what that opens up, you've got to be for everybody who comes in with their clubs and does what they're going to do. And so it's nice when you have the big stick. But, if you study Revelations and all that stuff, do we really want that being brought to us with force? Because I'm telling you right now, there's people that will open a class of Satanism on purpose. And let's see in those environments which monster gets bigger faster. You got to be careful, I think, when you're in public spaces and you open these things up in a free country that we get the blessing to live in. Just be prepared, because I'm never going to turn down a Bible in a Bible class in a situation to tell people about Jesus and my story and my personal road to redemption. But at the end of the day, we better be ready for all of it. So if you have the guts to take that, you can fight it and you can do all those things. But the way the system is set up, it's not going to allow us to do that. Not legally. And that's what it comes down to is there's a lot more to deal with when you open up those doors. And here's another thing. It's nice when you want things the way you want them and your preferences. But when you start projecting those on everybody else, yes, it's a principle to me, my foundation in Christ. But at the end of the day, other people could care less about it. In a public school setting, if you don't want people teaching transgenderism to kindergartners, then we should watch what other things we want to teach too.
Correct.
And so there's a hard conversation that needs to take place there, because again, I love that kids have options, but if you're going to give them options, you got to know that there's going to be all options brought to the table. Now, today in some ways, we do have those other teachings going on, and they don't want the other ones to come in.
Well,
it's the balance between all
and
that.
here's my thing,
Well,
okay?
and the
Because I studied
Establishment
theology
Clause
and
swings
government.
both directions. The Establishment Clause, I'm going to speak as a Christian here. The Establishment Clause has been used as a club against Christianity
Yeah.
for decades.
Yep.
What is happening here is an attempt to swing things the other way. It is an attempt for Christianity to be able to use that club against those people.
Well, and we're founded
it does
in
not
God we
work that
trust.
way.
In God we trust is on our money, and we're founded on Christian values, and that should be a given. But there are some reasons why people came here for religious persecution to spin up this amazing country that we have. But you have to know that we're in a different time, and we do have different theologies all around us every day. And whether they're blunt about it or not, again, just be ready. And you don't like some of the clubs with homosexuality that are in our schools today. Well, we have Christian clubs too. You know?
Yeah, and here's my thing. Okay, my word on it is this. Okay, and no news to anybody. I'll get the cross out. But I think that there should be Bibles in the library. Absolutely. I think there should be the Quran in the library. I think there should be all kinds of books that lead to the understanding and education of faith. I'm not opposed to theology classes, but I think people are very ignorant, and that is the word, that, the three of us sitting here are all Christians, but I guarantee you that there are things that we fundamentally disagree on.
100%.
Okay, so most people are not sitting here thinking about that. What they're doing is, we live in a world of projection, which is, oh, well, yes, I think that there should be a teacher in school teaching my interpretation of the Bible because my interpretation is right. Well, what about the other 56,000 different denominations that we have in the United States? Whose interpretation of the Bible gets taught?
Ding. And here's the other thing I'm going to throw at you.
So I'm a hard no on that.
So
teaching of theology, yes. Teaching of some kind of...
Here's a look into the lens, right? My lens.
It's only going to be the King James Version Bible, and I'd be okay with it.
Are you okay with the New King James Version Bible?
No.
Gosh,
I show up as a freshman.
You're such a hard
You don't
you
understand.
Pharisee, you.
And I went to a private school in 5th and 6th grade. I had some issues in public school, believe it or not. And they had to move me on over to this nice little private school. And it was a Baptist church that I attended growing up. That was
so are we talking Southern Baptist or Baptist?
We're talking. We don't even have.
Are you talking
TVs
the
in
New
the house.
American Baptist?
All right.
Or
No secular music because those chords mean something, and we knew all about that.
Usher and the Devil.
So, anyways, and I still have some beliefs in some things that stuck with me through those years of my life, and I rebelled really hard because I seen all the sides. But anyways, at the end of the day, I'm grateful for my relationship today. I'll just say that with Christ because it's mine and his and nobody else's. But at the end of the day, when you have certain beliefs, I have friends that will have kids that come visit me, and my kids know what they can and can't do and what games they can and can't play, out of respect to those families. At what point and what version of the Bible, and how do you police that? And this is where the impossibility exists in what you're saying. Now, that's a sweeping statement. People want publicity. They want people fighting about those things to take away from the bigger picture and the real conversation, which is stop separating and dividing us and try your best to love everybody. And if you're walking and doing the best you can in that space and not segmenting out and attacking people for whatever reasons you think you should attack them, frankly, it just shows how weak you are.
So the thing that I'm going to go with here is,
and yes, that was stated for certain individuals that may be listening.
Of all places in the
No
world.
pun intended, right?
Pun intended. Punt that ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you haters that don't listen to the program, right?
Yeah. So of all places in the world that kind of got this one right, Heston College, 1989, 1990, 91, in that era, they got it right. Every year, the freshman class would show up full of kids like me. 4 years, Mennonite high school, and we're going to a Mennonite college. So they've had 4 years to, for lack of better words, indoctrinate us. Okay? Already. And we're preparing for 2 more years of it. And I don't think it was a required course. I think I don't know why I took it, but there's a course on the schedule, level 100, Introduction to Religion. I've had 4 years, man. I'm gonna ace this sucker. This is gonna be easy.
But you had to learn about everybody else's religion.
You had to learn it all.
Yep.
Day one, you walk in there and you're talking about Hinduism. And you get a whole week of that. And then we're going to talk about Islam and where it came from and what its tenets are. And the fact that at the time, we were talking at that, and they were accurate. There were next to no English translations of the Quran. So you're going to have to, if you really want to read this, you're going to have to figure out a way to read Arabic. And I'm like, well, that's a little bit above a 100 level course. So this is what we know. That introduction to religion course was all 18 weeks, all 18 weeks. It was about every religion you could possibly imagine.
That's a crash course for sure.
That's what made him liberal.
We got one day.
Liberal.
We got one day.
Non-Republican in Republican name only.
Right. We got one day
Fucking right.
where we talked about Anabaptists at a Mennonite college. That's this done right.
Oh, yeah.
That is religious education done right.
Well, there was a time
When you
in my
start
life,
talking
Chad,
about sticking Bibles in high schools, what you're talking about is religious education. We have to do it right. And only
But why do they have
teaching.
to stick Bibles in high schools? We should already have them. Like, they're already there, right? I mean, isn't that already?
I don't know. I was actually thinking about going to the library and looking to see if, like, have my kids go search it out.
We have all kinds of stuff. And I think, then we get into, I just read, there's a book that a friend of mine said, be careful with this book. Because sometimes we try to shove books into the middle schools that don't need to be there. I don't believe in censoring information, but there's age appropriate stuff that we have to be cognizant, right? And then again, well, who says that? Some families may choose that. They'll let them do it at home, but some ages don't need to be hearing about rape and drugs at the level that some of these books identify them, and the homosexual books that they try to get into some of these kids' hands that are very graphic, that are just, it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
And why can I say that? Because come on, some common sense needs to live here, which is another hard thing when you start debating these topics. People just don't want to be honest about it. They want to placate whatever side they have to play for. Coming into your sophomore, junior, especially your junior and senior year in high school, with the internet and with people getting information, people going out with their friends. I mean, you've been exposed, and your kids are going to have to start making life choices, and you better hope that you've planted some good seeds, because, they're going to have access to things that we don't like, and they're going to have to start, yes, you have the conversations about self-control and why you do and don't do stuff and what the repercussions can be, because they're going to be kids and mess up, hopefully, so you can coach them. But at the end of the day, Bibles are there, right? They're there.
I mean, I can't say for certain.
I mean, I have one with me every day right on my phone.
Well, good call. Good
but
call.
We're not teaching it.
Not teaching it. Well, and going back to this,
It's not being taught.
Most people are not
And I
learning
will go- and I-
theology.
But that's
in
not
general.
true all
And I'm
across
gonna
the country,
go-
though. Different regions, different areas.
Sure,
I have
but
a
I'm
friend
gonna
that I
go
went
with
to Bethel
something else,
College
too.
that's super liberal, who did amazing things in the high school that he coaches at, and they have a church there through the same program on Sundays, and they do some amazing stuff with kiddos. And yes, it's in a low populated area and whatever, but I don't see them getting chastised or beat up or persecuted.
Nothing when religion comes to education should be compulsory. That's my biggest thing.
I'm
It
going to
should
draw a
not be
parallel.
something that is
Interesting.
mandated on behalf of the government or the school district to say you have to take this and this is where you're at. Well,
I like that.
And to say that we shouldn't have like there was a time in my life where I had a lot of time, folks, and I didn't waste it. Okay, I didn't waste it.
Let's talk about that now.
Well, hey, I'll just be honest.
Not today.
There was a point in my life where I had a 5-year period of time where I had an exceptionally excessive amount of time, and I didn't waste it. And what I did was I went in and I studied law, theology, and government. And you want to have a discussion about it, we can have a discussion about it. But the reality of it is if it was not eye-opening to me to come to understand that a lot of this comes down to interpretation. But one thing that I find very interesting about all three of those subject matters is that most of it is birthed out of division. Division, contradiction, and, well, art. I mean, just those are the two words that fit. So, because we're getting like way over, I just want to say, leave you guys with something about this whole situation, everything that we talked about, and something that I think is on a lot of people's minds. And I'm hearing all this stuff this is a mandate, this is a mandate, this is a mandate. We just touched on it. The question I want to leave you guys with, and I know I'm being unfair because I want 30 seconds or less here, okay? Did the American people vote for a Republican agenda to be mandated onto everyone, or did they vote against the Democratic Party agenda? Chad.
With the millions and millions and millions of voters that we have in this country, I don't know that we can decipher that. And especially when we have, what was the estimate I read in U.S. News and World Report? 90 million eligible voters. They didn't even bother.
Andy?
I'm going to say because should be a fast track to get things done the way the system's rolled itself out for Republicans to get to work and really make change happen. That sounds like pretty much a go get it done or else. So I'm hopeful. I know there's going to be some mess. I know there's going to be sabotage. I know there's going to, on both sides, by the way, just to be clear. There's going to be some I'm going to get you backs in places that we can't control with some things that are going on. Lawfare was real. I saw it. Manipulation is real on both sides. How does this group right now that's in leadership position handle that? I'm optimistic because I see something different than I've ever seen in my lifetime, at least. I'm interpreting things differently. I've seen the stage talk before and I've been let down. And that's after I voted for Obama, just to be clear. And that was a radical change in my life at that time. That happened because of what I heard versus what really happened. So we will see. I'm hopeful and optimistic. I'm going to go with the rhetoric of a mandate for now, anticipating great things, knowing we're going to have some issues. And when I hear numbers like $2 trillion could possibly be saved, I worry about how the distribution of some of those things are going to hurt our local systems that help people in need, and how those will be repositioned. And will it be fast enough to continue the support that some of these people need? If it means that we go back and open up mental health facilities and we're able to get people off the streets and into places where they're safe and others are safe, where they're being fed, and have the maximum amount of love that we can distribute to them, given the challenges that so many of them have, I'm for all that. I just hope that there's not a big gap in between the actual support and after the cutting, because it's going to happen. And there will be people in my life that are trying to do good things in the community that are going to lose funding, that serve people, that will lose jobs over what's about to happen. And I just don't know where it's going to happen yet, but I'm concerned about that. But I'm also hopeful that the bigger picture will pay off in the long term. So we're going to cut, and it won't come without some damage. So,
and I'll say this, I think the telltale sign to whether something was a red sweep or a mandate, just being fully honest, is how many senators and representatives from communities who are Democrat were reelected, but also how many of those are individual communities that voted for Trump. And I think if you look at that balance and you realize that there were many, many senators and Republicans, or senators and representatives who were Democrats that held on to their seats, while yet that same region voted for Trump, I'm here to conclude and believe, from what I know in my education, that it was a mandate against what the Democrat Party was doing. So hold on to your hats, Republicans. If we turn around and do the same exact thing that they did, it's not going to be good for us in the next 4 to 8 years. I promise you.
2 years.
good point.
We got in midterms. 2 years.
Good call.
And if we go to,
the timeline is a lot more aggressive.
Here's what's interesting. If we go to campaign mode right after they got elected, like they normally do, without getting things done, which that should be your campaign, is the actions that you actually take to make good things happen, or the best possible things happen with what's going on right now, that's where we're going to see a big swing. And I'm hopeful that maybe a third party, if they screw this up, will come about, because I ain't allergic to that.
No, I've long believed in the need of a third party.
That's why they'll put me in the rhino box, and I'm okay with that.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for listening to the program. I know we went a little bit long this week, but that's okay. We'll catch you next week, everybody.